My husband, the director, demanded I cancel my emergency surgery for a client pitch. He mocked me, calling me too sensitive and dramatic when I hesitated. I said, okay, then made a single call that changed everything. By the time the pitch started, he was begging me not to. Turns out I wasn't the one being dramatic after all. Cancel it. Josiah didn't even look up from his laptop when he said it, as if rescheduling my emergency surgery was as simple as moving a hair appointment. I stood frozen in our kitchen doorway, Dr. Reeves' urgent voicemail still echoing in my ears. 72 hours to stop the internal bleeding or face organ failure. My husband, the prestigious creative director of Apex Marketing, just kept typing his presentation notes, my presentation notes actually, waiting for me to agree like I always did. Did you hear me? I managed, my voice barely steady. The pain in my abdomen had been building for weeks, but this morning it felt different. Sharper, like something inside was tearing apart. The Kellerman pitch is tomorrow, Naomi. You know that. His fingers never stopped moving across the keyboard. Whatever procedure you've scheduled can wait until next week. Before we continue, if you believe that no one should have to choose between their life and their job, please consider subscribing. It helps these important stories reach others who might need to hear them. I watched him sitting there at our granite kitchen island, surrounded by the trappings of his success. The latest MacBook, his collection of industry awards displayed on the shelf behind him, the Italian espresso machine I'd bought with my last paycheck before I'd quit my job to support his career. 3 years ago I'd been Naomi Mitchell, rising strategist at Morrison & Associates. Now I was Mrs. Blackwood, invisible architect of my husband's empire. The irony wasn't lost on me that I'd woken at 5 a.m. to finish the very presentation he was reviewing. While he'd slept soundly, I'd been hunched over my laptop, fighting through waves of pain to perfect the campaign that would win him another bonus, another accolade, another step up the ladder built from my ideas. It's not just any procedure, I said, moving closer, hoping proximity might make him actually see me. Dr. Reeves said it's a ruptured cyst. There's internal bleeding. If I don't. You're being dramatic. He finally looked up, and the irritation in his eyes hit harder than the physical pain. Everyone has health issues. I presented with a migraine last quarter, remember? A migraine. He was comparing a migraine to internal hemorrhaging. I wanted to laugh, but I was afraid if I started I might not stop. Or I might cry. Or both. My phone buzzed. Emma, my sister, texting to check if I'd gotten the test results. I'd been keeping her at arm's length about the pain, not wanting to worry her. She had enough on her plate with her divorce, and besides, what would I tell her? That I'd been ignoring increasingly severe symptoms because my husband needed his presentations typed, his meetings scheduled, his brilliance manufactured? The pitch is at 10 tomorrow, Josiah continued, returning to his screen. You'll be there, obviously. We need to present a united front. The Kellerman account is worth $12 million annually. He loved that word when it meant my work with his signature. He'd use it tomorrow too, gesturing confidently as he presented concepts he'd initially called too risky, when I'd suggested them over dinner last month. I still had the email where he'd dismissed my integrated nostalgia campaign as amateur, sent just 3 days before he pitched it to his boss as his breakthrough innovation. I could die, I said quietly. Dr. Reeves was clear. 72 hours maximum. But she recommended tomorrow morning. God, Naomi, always so sensitive. He shook his head, that familiar condescending smile playing on his lips. This is exactly what I mean. You let everything become a crisis. It's probably stress-related anyway. You know how you get. How I get. As if the stress wasn't from creating campaigns at 2 a.m. while he slept, from watching him accept praise for my strategies, from smiling politely at company events while colleagues congratulated him on insights I'd developed. The stress of being erased, presentation by presentation, meeting by meeting, day by day. I thought about our wedding photo in the living room, how young and hopeful I'd looked. I'd actually believed we'd be partners, that my marketing expertise would complement his business connections. Instead, I'd become his ghostwriter, his secret weapon, his convenient in-house creative department. Make sure the analytics are updated, he added, already dismissing me. And wear that navy dress tomorrow. Professional but not distracting. You know how traditional Kellerman's team can be. I nodded because what else could I do? The pain twisted sharper and I gripped the counter. Josiah didn't notice. He was already practicing his opening, my words flowing from his mouth with practiced confidence. I climbed the stairs to our bedroom, each step an effort. Our house was beautiful. The suburban dream we'd bought with his first major bonus, the one earned from the campaign I'd created while recovering from the flu. I passed his office, door always locked, where he'd developed strategies that consisted mainly of golf videos and LinkedIn networking while I worked from the kitchen table, accessible and interruptible. The medicine cabinet was full of his vitamins, his prescription medications carefully organized. My pain relievers were shoved in the back, expired. When had I stopped taking care of myself? When had I accepted that my pain was less important than his comfort? My laptop sat open on the bed where I'd left it at 4 a.m., the Kellerman presentation glowing on the screen. Slide after slide of brilliance that would never bear my name. Tomorrow he'd stand in that conference room, click through my thoughts, my creativity, my expertise while I sat in the corner taking notes, the supportive wife, the invisible foundation of his visible success. The pain flared again, and this time I couldn't suppress the gasp. Something was seriously wrong. Dr. Reeves had been explicitly clear. This wasn't something to postpone. But Josiah had been equally clear. The pitch came first. His career came first. He came first. Always. The next morning arrived too soon and not soon enough. I'd barely slept, the pain keeping me in a state of half-consciousness where every position brought fresh agony. At 7 a.m. sharp my phone rang. Dr. Helena Reeves. Naomi, I've been reviewing your test results with the surgical team. Her voice carried an urgency that made my stomach drop. The hemorrhaging is more severe than we initially assessed. The cyst didn't just rupture. It's caused damage to surrounding tissue. We need to operate within 72 hours, but honestly I'd prefer tomorrow morning. 8 a.m. if possible. I heard the shower running. Josiah's morning routine, precise as clockwork. 20-minute shower, 10 minutes for grooming, 5 for selecting his outfit. I had a 35-minute window. There's significant blood accumulation in your peritoneal cavity, Dr. Reeves continued. Are you experiencing increased pain? Dizziness? Yes to both, I admitted, sinking onto our bed. The Egyptian cotton sheets Josiah insisted on buying felt cold against my fevered skin. Then we can't delay. Without intervention we're looking at organ failure, Naomi. Your liver and kidneys are already under stress. I need you to understand, this is life-threatening. My hand trembled as I grabbed a pen from the nightstand. 8 a.m. tomorrow. I'll be there. Good. No food or drink after midnight tonight. Naomi? If the pain becomes unbearable or you experience sudden fever, come to the emergency room immediately. Don't wait. After she hung up, I stared at our shared calendar on my phone. Tomorrow's date glared back at me. Kellerman pitched an im. Do not schedule anything else in Josiah's bold red text. My fingers hesitated over the screen before I added in small blue text. Surgery 8 a.m. The shower shut off. I could hear him humming, that confident tune he always hummed on big presentation days. I sat on the edge of our bed, practicing words in my head. How do you tell someone who sees you as an accessory that you might cease to exist entirely? He emerged in a cloud of steam, towel wrapped around his waist, his gym-maintained physique on display. 3 times a week with his personal trainer while I worked through lunch, creating the presentations that paid for those sessions. Big day tomorrow, he said, not really looking at me as he selected a tie from his collection. Did you finalize the demographic breakdowns? Josiah, I need to tell you something. Can it wait? I need to mentally prepare. He held up 2 ties, both gifts I'd given him using money from my depleted savings. The blue or the silver? I just got off the phone with Dr. Reeves. The test results. The blue then. He tossed the silver aside. Makes me look trustworthy but innovative. I'm having surgery tomorrow morning. Hate him. His hands stopped moving. Slowly he turned to face me, and the expression on his face wasn't concern. It was inconvenience, like I'd just told him I'd scheduled a carpet cleaning during the Super Bowl. Tomorrow? The Kellerman pitch is tomorrow. I know, but... Then obviously you need to reschedule. He turned back to his closet, pulling out his lucky presentation suit. Next week would be better. I stood up, fighting a wave of dizziness. It can't wait. There's internal bleeding. Dr. Reeves said if we don't operate within 72 hours, my organs could fail. He actually laughed. Not a nervous laugh or an uncomfortable laugh, but the same dismissive chuckle he used when interns suggested ideas in meetings. Naomi, you're being dramatic again. Too sensitive as always. He pulled on his underwear with casual indifference to my words. Everyone has health issues. I had a migraine during the Stevenson presentation, remember? Still closed the deal. The comparison hit me like cold water. A migraine versus organ failure. This was how he saw me. My life measured against his mild discomforts and found equally weighted. This is different. I tried again, pulling up Dr. Reeves' message on my phone. Look, she says it's life-threatening. He glanced at my screen for maybe 2 seconds. Doctors always say that. Liability reasons. They dramatize everything to cover themselves legally. He pulled on his pants, each movement deliberate and unconcerned. Your little procedure can wait 3 days. Your little procedure. The words hung in the air between us. My potential death had been diminished to an inconvenience smaller than a dental cleaning. The Kellerman account is worth $12 million annually, he continued, his voice taking on that lecturing tone I'd heard him use with junior staff. My bonus alone would pay off the rest of the mortgage. Your surgery, what costs a few thousand? Maybe 10? Think about the math here. When I didn't respond immediately, his expression shifted. The dismissiveness morphed into something colder, more calculated. He walked over to where I stood, still in yesterday's clothes because changing had seemed impossible with the pain. Adults make sacrifices, he said slowly as if explaining to a child. Do you want to explain to the mortgage company why my bonus disappeared? To our families why we had to cancel the renovation? Because my wife couldn't handle a stomach ache. A stomach ache. Internal hemorrhaging reduced to the equivalent of bad sushi. I could die, I whispered. You're being selfish. The word hung between us like a blade. This pitch is about our future. Our success. And you want to jeopardize it for what? Some routine procedure that could happen any time. I felt something break inside me. Not physically, though the pain was getting worse, but something deeper. Some final thread of delusion that had let me believe he saw me as a person rather than a tool. Okay, I heard myself whisper. His face transformed immediately, the cold calculation replaced by satisfaction. He reached out and patted my head, actually patted it like I was a dog who'd finally learned to sit. Good girl. That's my smart wife. He moved back to his closet, already dismissing me. Make sure you update the ROI projections. And take something for the pain if you need to, but nothing that'll make you drowsy tomorrow. I need you sharp for support. He grabbed his gym bag and headed for the door. I've got a spa appointment at 2. Massage and facial. Need to look my best for Kellerman. You should probably rest, though. You look terrible. The front door closed with a decisive click. I stood frozen for a moment, processing what had just happened. My husband had just told me to postpone life-saving surgery for a business meeting. More than that, he'd made me feel guilty for even considering my life more important than his commission. I made it to the kitchen before the rage hit. The rage in my kitchen crystallized into something colder, more precise. I stood at the sink, gripping the edge until my knuckles went white, and made a decision that would have seemed impossible even an hour ago. My laptop sat open on the counter where I'd left it after finishing Josiah's presentation. But instead of closing it, I opened a different folder. One buried deep in my documents, labeled innocuously Recipe Archive. Inside were 3 years of evidence I'd collected without fully understanding why. Maybe some part of me had always known this day would come. I scrolled through timestamps, emails, original drafts, until I found what I was looking for. Marcus Kellerman's personal cell number from when we'd worked together at Morrison & Associates 5 years ago, before I'd become Mrs. Invisible Blackwood. My finger hesitated over the call button. Marcus had tried to poach me twice since I'd left Morrison, but both times Josiah had convinced me to decline. We don't need 2 careers competing, he'd said. Partnership means supporting each other. What he'd meant was, your talent should remain hidden so mine can shine. I pressed call before I could lose my nerve. Naomi Mitchell? Marcus's voice carried surprise and something else, pleasure. It's been too long. It's Blackwood now, I corrected, though the name tasted bitter. Right, of course. Josiah's wife. He mentions you sometimes, though not nearly enough considering you're supposedly his secret weapon. There was an edge to his tone I hadn't expected. Marcus, I need to see you. Today. It's about tomorrow's pitch. Pause. Naomi, if Josiah's trying to use you to negotiate better terms. This isn't about negotiations. It's about truth. Can you meet me at Grounded Coffee on 5th? The quiet one, not the chain. I'll be there in 40 minutes. I changed into something that didn't scream dying inside, though the effort of pulling on jeans nearly made me pass out. The drive downtown required stopping once to breathe through a wave of pain so intense I thought I might vomit. But I made it, parking in the back where Josiah would never accidentally spot my car. Marcus was already there, seated in a corner booth with clear sight lines to both entrances. Old habits from his paranoid CO days. He stood when he saw me, and his expression shifted from professional curiosity to genuine concern. Jesus, Naomi, you look like death. Yeah, there's a reason for that. I slid into the booth, grateful to be sitting. He signaled the server for coffee, then studied me with those sharp eyes that had built a Fortune 500 company. Talk to me. So I did. I told him about the internal bleeding, the ruptured cyst, Dr. Reeves' 72-hour deadline. His face darkened with each word, but when I explained Josiah's response, the dismissal, the comparison to his migraines, the command to postpone surgery, Marcus's coffee cup actually rattled against the saucer from the trembling of his hands. He told you to cancel life-saving surgery for a pitch meeting? He called it my little procedure. Said I was being dramatic and too sensitive. Marcus's jaw clenched. That's attempted. He stopped himself, but I knew what he'd been about to say. I know what it is, I said quietly. Then, before I could lose my nerve, I lifted my shirt just enough to show the bruising that had spread across my abdomen, purple and black like storm clouds. He sucked in a sharp breath. You should be in a hospital right now. I will be. Tomorrow. After the pitch. Naomi. I need you to see something. I pulled out my laptop, typing in passwords with fingers that only shook a little. This is why I called you. The first email I showed him was from 6 months ago. My original campaign concept for Kellerman Industries, sent to Josiah at 2:47 a.m. with detailed strategies, demographic analyses and creative concepts. His response at 7 a.m., this needs work. Too complicated. Let me fix it. Then I showed Marcus the presentation Josiah had sent to set up the pitch meeting. Word for word my exact campaign. Keep reading, I said, pulling up more files. Email after email, campaign after campaign. The Stevenson rebrand that had won Apex an industry award. My design sent to Josiah while I had the flu. The Morrison recovery strategy that had saved a $10 million account, created during my supposed vacation, while Josiah played golf with clients. 3 years of my invisible labor, documented with timestamps, original files and Josiah's dismissive responses followed by him presenting my exact work as his innovation. The tagline for your campaign, I said, pulling up one final email. Legacy meets tomorrow. Josiah's been bragging about coming up with it during his morning workout. Marcus read my email dated 3 weeks ago, 1:15 a.m. with that exact tagline embedded in a full creative brief. His face had gone pale. I've suspected something for months, he said finally. The writing style in his presentations never matched how he spoke. Technical details he couldn't explain without you there. I actually requested you specifically for this account. Did you know that? I shook my head. He said you were just support staff. No strategic experience. Just helped with scheduling and notes. Marcus's laugh was bitter. But every time he fumbled a question, you somehow had the complete answer from your notes. There's more, I said, my voice steadier now. Your ethics consultant, Vivian Ashford. She worked with Josiah before, didn't she? Marcus's eyes widened. At his previous agency. She left after 6 months. Never said why, but she went very quiet when I mentioned we were considering Apex for this contract. Call her. Ask her about her experience. I'm betting my story isn't unique. He was already pulling out his phone. What do you want from this, Naomi? What's your plan? I closed my laptop, meeting his eyes directly. Tomorrow you're going to bring Vivian and whoever else needs to see this. Board members, other executives, I don't care. When Josiah presents my work, claiming it as his own, you're going to know the truth. We could handle this differently. I could confront him privately, force him to credit you. No. The word came out harder than I intended. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about every assistant whose ideas he's stolen, Every junior employee he's crushed. Every person who's been erased so he could shine. They deserve to see him exposed. Marcus studied me for a long moment. You know this will destroy him professionally. He asked me to die for his bonus. I think we're past professional courtesy. Fair point. He stood, pulling out his wallet, but I waved him off. Naomi, I want you to know. There's a position at Kellerman Industries whenever you're ready. Strategic Director. Your name on everything. Let's get through tomorrow first. He reached across the table, squeezing my hand gently. You should have been visible all along. I'm sorry it took this to make it happen. As he left, I sat in the quiet cafe feeling something shift inside me. Not the physical pain which was constant now, but something else. For 3 years I'd accepted invisibility as the price of marriage, of stability, of supporting someone I thought loved me. Tomorrow I would become visible in the most spectacular way possible. The drive home from the cafe took twice as long as usual. I had to pull over 3 times, each wave of pain forcing me to grip the steering wheel until it passed. By the time I reached our driveway, the sun was setting, painting our suburban house in deceptively warm colors. Inside, I knew, waited the cold reality of what tomorrow would bring. I barely made it through the front door before doubling over. The pain had shifted from sharp stabs to a constant grinding agony that radiated through my entire torso. Each breath felt like work. But I couldn't stop now. Not when I was this close. In Josiah's home office, the one he always locked, though I'd made a copy of the key months ago, I found his backup drives. My hands shook as I copied everything onto multiple USBs. The evidence files, the emails, the timestamps. One for Marcus, one for Emma, one hidden in my car, another in the freezer behind the ice cream Josiah never touched because he was watching his physique. I used my phone to photograph the bruising that had spread across my abdomen and ribs, purple-black patches that looked like storm clouds gathering under my skin. Each photo was uploaded to 3 different cloud services. Something happened to me tomorrow. If I collapsed, if Josiah somehow found out, the evidence would survive. My phone rang. Emma. Just checking in, she said, but I could hear the worry bleeding through her casual tone. How did the doctor's appointment go yesterday? I laughed, but it came out wrong, bitter and broken. Emma, I need to tell you something. The silence on her end stretched as I explained everything. The internal bleeding. The surgery. Josiah's ultimatum. My plan for tomorrow. I could practically feel her rage building through the phone. I'm getting on a plane, she said before I'd even finished. Right now. Emma, you don't need to. Like hell I don't. My sister is married to a monster who's trying to kill her for a commission check. I'll be there by midnight. The front door opened downstairs. Josiah's voice carried up, loud and slightly slurred. He was on the phone, probably with Bradley from his team. Tomorrow's going to be legendary, Brad. The bonus alone will be 6 figures. Naomi's already got everything perfect, she's good for that at least. Good for that at least. After everything, I was reduced to a useful function. I heard him rummaging in the kitchen, probably looking for the dinner I hadn't made. For the first time in 3 years, his meal wasn't waiting. A petty victory, but I'd take it. His footsteps on the stairs made me quickly close my laptop. He appeared in the doorway, tie loosened, face flushed from alcohol. No dinner. He wasn't really asking. I wasn't feeling well. He rolled his eyes. Still being dramatic about tomorrow, I see. Look, I need you functional for the pitch. Wear that navy dress. Professional but not distracting. You know how conservative Kellerman's team can be. He walked past me to our closet, not noticing how I was hunched over, arms wrapped around my middle. Oh, and make sure you're there by 9:30. I want you seated and ready before they arrive. Silent support, you understand? Let me do the talking. Silent support. If only he knew how loud my silence was about to become. He grabbed his iPad and headed to the bedroom, probably to review his presentation one more time. I'm going to practice the pitch. Don't interrupt. I listened from the hallway as he rehearsed my words with his characteristic confidence. The integrated nostalgia campaign, my concept he'd called amateur 3 weeks ago. The demographic targeting strategy I'd developed during those 2 a.m. sessions while he slept. The tagline that had come to me during a particularly bad pain episode, when I'd thought about how companies like people could honor their past while embracing change. I held up my phone, recording every word. Evidence of him claiming ownership of ideas he'd initially rejected. His voice carried that particular tone of authority he used when presenting his brilliance. Deeper, more modulated, nothing like the dismissive pitch he used with me. Revolutionary integration of traditional values with digital innovation, he practiced. My words, written in an email dated 3 weeks ago at 1:47 a.m. A car pulled into our driveway just before midnight. Emma. She took one look at me and went pale. Oh my God, Naomi. You look like... I know. She pulled me into a gentle hug, careful not to press against my abdomen. We're going to the emergency room. Right now. After tomorrow. Naomi. I need to do this, Em. Not just for me. For everyone else he's erased. She studied my face for a long moment, then nodded. Show me everything. We sat at the kitchen table. Josiah was snoring upstairs, deep in his confident sleep, and I laid out 3 years of evidence. The emails, the stolen campaigns, the documentation. But Emma surprised me by pulling out her own laptop. I've been keeping records too, she said quietly. I never trusted him. Remember your Morrison Award from 6 years ago? The campaign for Riverside Healthcare. I nodded. It had been my proudest achievement before I met Josiah. Look at this. She pulled up Josiah's online portfolio, dated last year. There it was. My Riverside campaign, listed as his work from early in his career. He'd even slightly modified the graphics to make them harder to trace. I have the original files, Emma continued. Your old creative director sent them to me when he saw Josiah's portfolio. He was furious but didn't want to interfere in your marriage. My hands clenched. He'd stolen work from before he even knew me, retrofitting my history into his narrative. There's more, Emma said, pulling up social media posts. I've documented every time he's taken credit publicly. Every interview where he's claimed your ideas. I've been waiting for you to be ready to see it. We spent the next 3 hours organizing everything. Emma helped me write backup plans, resignation letters, medical documentation, even a statement that would automatically post to my LinkedIn if I didn't cancel it by noon tomorrow. She transferred copies of everything to her own devices, set up remote access to my files, and even created a shared document that would alert Marcus if neither of us updated it by tomorrow afternoon. At 3 a.m. Josiah started talking in his sleep. Kellerman deal. My vision, biggest win yet. Emma had to physically restrain me. Not now. Tomorrow in front of everyone. That's when he pays. She helped me take more photos of the bruising now spread up to my ribs. We wrote out medical directives, giving her power of attorney if I became incapacitated. She even helped me practice staying upright, finding positions that minimized the pain enough to appear functional. You could die, she said quietly as dawn approached. I almost died living like this anyway, I replied. At least tomorrow I'll be visible when it happens. The alarm at 5:30 a.m. was unnecessary. I hadn't slept. Emma dozed fitfully on the couch, having refused to leave me alone. I moved through my morning routine like a ghost, each movement calculated to conserve energy. The navy dress Josiah had specified hung on my frame differently now, looser from the days of barely eating through the pain. You don't have to do this, Emma whispered as I applied concealer to hide the shadows under my eyes. Yes, I do. I steadied my hand to apply lipstick, armor for the battle ahead. If I don't show up, he wins by default. He'll spin my absence as unreliability, use it to further bury my contributions. The drive to Apex Marketing at 6:45 a.m. felt like approaching a battlefield. Emma followed in her rental car, ready to intervene if necessary. The morning sun cast long shadows across the parking garage, and I counted each step from my car to the elevator, rationing my strength. Robert, the security guard who'd watched me arrive early so many mornings over 3 years, did a double take when I walked through the lobby. Mrs. Blackwood? You all right? You look. He trailed off, professional enough not to finish the sentence. Just need to get through one more meeting, Robert. His weathered face creased with concern. Should I call someone? You're white as paper. I'll be fine. Just a big presentation today. He looked unconvinced but buzzed me through. You need anything, you call down. I mean it. The executive conference room was pristine, all glass and chrome and intimidation. I arrived 2 hours before anyone else, using the time to arrange everything strategically. Water bottles positioned to hide my trembling hands. Extra chairs placed where I could grip them for support if needed. My seat chosen carefully, close enough to the door for a quick exit if necessary, but with clear sight lines to watch every face when the truth emerged. I opened my laptop and pulled up the presentation one final time. My work, every slide of it, about to be delivered by a man who saw me as nothing more than a convenient tool. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was using my last reserves of strength to ensure my own work would be presented perfectly, even if under his name, for now. At 8 a.m., other employees began filtering in. Several stopped to stare at me through the glass walls, clearly shocked by my appearance despite my attempts at concealment. Lisa, the intern who'd witnessed too many of Josiah's credit-stealing meetings, actually mouthed, "Are you okay?" through the glass. I managed a small nod. At 8:30, Josiah arrived like a peacock in full display. Designer suit pressed to perfection, shoes gleaming, that specific cologne he wore for power meetings, announcing his presence before he entered. He looked refreshed, glowing from yesterday's spa treatment, while I sat dying, literally dying, in the chair where he expected me to be his silent support. "You look unprofessional," were his first words to me. Not "good morning." Not "how are you feeling?" Just immediate criticism. "I told you to make an effort. The clients will notice." He didn't see the death pale beneath my makeup or the way I gripped the table for support. He saw only that I might reflect poorly on him. "Here, hold this." He handed me his coffee cup, his special blend from the boutique place downtown, while he adjusted his tie in the mirror-like surface of the conference room window. I was furniture to him, a convenient table for his belongings. "Did you print extra copies of the presentation?" he asked, not looking at me. "They're in the folders." My voice came out steadier than expected. "Good. Remember, you're here for support. Silent support. I do the talking." He pulled out his phone, probably checking his appearance in the camera one more time when reception called. "Mr. Blackwood? The Kellerman team has arrived. They've brought additional people." Josiah's face lit up with pure greed. "Additional decision makers. This is even better than expected. They're probably ready to sign today." He grabbed the presentation materials, then placed his hand on my lower back. Not in affection but ownership, the way someone might rest their hand on a briefcase or laptop bag. "Come on. Let's close this deal." Walking to the reception area felt like a death march. Each step sent pain radiating through my core, but I kept moving, kept breathing, kept my face neutral. Emma was somewhere in the building. She'd texted that she'd positioned herself in the lobby cafe with a clear view of the elevators. The elevator doors opened, and I watched Josiah's confident expression transform into something I'd never seen before: fear. Marcus stood there, but he wasn't alone. Beside him was Vivian Ashford, whose sharp eyes missed nothing, and two board members I recognized from Kellerman Industries' website. This wasn't a sales meeting anymore. This was a tribunal. "Josiah," Marcus said coolly. His eyes flickered to me with concern before returning to my husband. "Thank you for accommodating our expanded team." Of course. Josiah's voice had lost some of its boom. "Always happy to meet with key stakeholders. This is Vivian Ashford," Marcus continued as we walked toward the conference room. "She's our new ethics consultant. We've recently implemented a policy of thoroughly vetting all potential partners for, shall we say, integrity alignment." Josiah's hand on my back tightened to the point of pain. I could feel his palm growing damp through my dress. "Ethics consultant?" He tried to keep his tone light. "That's very thorough of you. We believe transparency and authenticity are fundamental to successful partnerships," Vivian said, her voice smooth as silk over steel. "Wouldn't you agree?" "Absolutely. Of course. Transparency is essential." We entered the conference room and I saw Josiah's eyes dart to the presentation materials, then to me, then back to the Kellerman team. He was calculating, trying to figure out what they knew, what angle to play. Vivian sat directly across from where Josiah would present, opening a leather folder with deliberate precision. "Before we begin, Mr. Blackwood, I'd like to address something." "Oh." His voice cracked slightly. "We've received some interesting information about this campaign. Specifically about its true creator." The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear the blood rushing in my ears, feel my heart pounding despite the weakness in my body. Vivian looked directly at me. Mrs. Blackwood, Naomi, we have documentation showing that every aspect of this campaign was created by you. Josiah's mask didn't just slip, it shattered completely. He turned to me and for the first time in 3 years he truly saw me. Not as his support system, not as his convenient tool, but as the architect of his destruction. What did you do? The words came out as a desperate whisper, his face draining of all color. I met his gaze steadily, finding strength I didn't know remained. I made a call, I said simply, my voice carrying across the silent conference room. Josiah's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. This is a misunderstanding, he stammered, turning to Marcus. Naomi is confused. She's been on heavy medication for a medical condition. The medication I'm not taking, I interrupted, finding strength in the truth. Because I haven't had the surgery yet. The surgery you called dramatic. The surgery you told me to cancel for this meeting. Marcus leaned forward. She told you about a life-threatening condition and you demanded she postpone treatment? It wasn't life-threatening. She exaggerates. Josiah's voice was climbing higher, desperate. Internal hemorrhaging isn't an exaggeration, Vivian said coolly. We have the medical documentation. The conference room door opened and Richard Apex himself walked in. The founder rarely involved himself in day-to-day operations anymore, but someone had clearly alerted him. His face was granite as he surveyed the scene. Josiah, he said quietly. We need to discuss some concerns that have been raised. Richard, this is all a misunderstanding. Naomi and I are a team. We work together on everything. A team. Marcus's voice cut through Josiah's rambling. Then why doesn't her name appear on a single presentation? Why is she listed as support staff when she created the entire campaign? She helps with research. I have emails, I said, pulling out my phone with shaking hands. 3 years of emails where I sent complete campaigns to Josiah at 2 or 3 a.m., and his responses telling me they need work, before he presented them word for word as his own. Vivian opened her folder wider, spreading papers across the table. We've been contacted by 3 former Apex employees. Rachel Morrison, who left 18 months ago. James Park, who transferred to the Seattle office. Maria Santos, who resigned after 6 months. All have similar stories about Mr. Blackwood taking credit for their work. Through the glass walls, I could see employees gathering, pretending to work while watching the drama unfold. My phone buzzed repeatedly. Messages from colleagues who were finally understanding why I always looked exhausted at company events. Why Josiah always had perfect answers to technical questions he shouldn't have known. This is a witch hunt, Josiah snarled, his polished facade cracking completely. You're all buying into the delusions of a sick woman who... The door opened again. Lisa, the intern who'd witnessed too much, walked in carrying a folder. Her hands trembled, but her voice was steady. Mr. Apex, I thought you should see this. I've been documenting instances where Mr. Blackwood claimed credit for junior staff work. 15 incidents in the past 4 months alone. She placed the folder on the table and quickly retreated. Through the glass, I saw others nodding, some pulling out their phones, probably adding their own experiences to the growing avalanche. You ungrateful, Josiah started toward me, his face purple with rage. That's enough, Richard said sharply. Josiah, effective immediately, you're suspended pending a full investigation. You can't do this. The Kellerman account belongs to whoever actually created it, Marcus interjected. Which appears to be Naomi. Josiah's hands clenched into fists. This is my work. My vision. She was just what? I stood, though the effort made my vision swim. Just your wife. Just support. Just the person who bled for your success while you got spa treatments. Security is on their way, Richard said, his phone in hand. Josiah lunged toward me then, grabbing my arm hard enough that I knew there would be bruises. You're nothing without me, he hissed, his breath hot against my face. I made you. I gave you everything. You took everything, I gasped, the pain from his grip mixing with the agony in my abdomen. 2 security guards appeared, moving quickly to pull Josiah away. But the sudden movement, the stress, the exhaustion, it was too much. The adrenaline that had kept me upright for hours suddenly evaporated. My legs buckled. Naomi. Multiple voices called out as I crumpled. The world tilted sideways. I saw Josiah being restrained by security, his face no longer angry but terrified, the expression of a man watching his carefully constructed empire crumble. Through the glass walls, employees had their phones out, recording everything. His humiliation would be viral by lunch. "Get an ambulance," someone shouted. "Marcus, I think." Emma burst through the door, having somehow known the exact moment I needed her. "I'm her sister. She has internal bleeding. She needs surgery now." She knelt beside me, cradling my head. "I've got you. It's over. You did it." The last thing I saw before darkness claimed me was Josiah being led out by security, his designer suit rumpled, his perfect image destroyed. He looked smaller somehow, diminished, like a wizard revealed to be just a man behind a curtain. The sound that followed me into unconsciousness wasn't his protests or threats. It was the sound of truth finally being spoken, echoing through the glass walls of Apex Marketing. When I woke, the first thing I noticed was the absence of pain. The grinding agony that had been my constant companion was gone, replaced by the foggy comfort of post-surgical medication. The second thing I noticed was the flowers. My hospital room looked like a florist shop had exploded. Bouquets covered every surface. Roses, lilies, cheerful daisies. Emma sat beside my bed, scrolling through her phone with a satisfied expression. "Welcome back," she said, squeezing my hand. "You've been out for 14 hours. The surgery? Successful. Dr. Reeves said another 12 hours and your organs would have started shutting down. Josiah literally almost killed you for a commission check." I processed that, the reality of how close I'd come to death for someone else's greed. "What happened after?" Emma's grin was fierce. "Oh sister. You've become a legend. The video of Josiah being escorted out has 2 million views. The story went viral. Executive exposes husband's theft while dying. You're trending." She showed me her phone. Messages flooded my inbox. 3 agencies offering positions, former clients wanting to work with me directly. There was even an email from Morrison and Associates, my old firm, offering to create a position specifically for me. "There's more," Emma continued. "Apex has launched a full review of all Josiah's past work. They're tracking down everyone who might have been affected, making sure proper credit is given. It's being called the Blackwood Audit." A knock on the door interrupted us. Marcus Kellerman entered, carrying a tablet and wearing a gentle smile. "I wanted to make sure you were all right," he said, "and to formally offer you the position of Strategic Director at Kellerman Industries. Your name on everything. Your vision properly credited." I stared at Marcus's tablet, the job offer glowing on the screen. Strategic Director. My name. My title. After years of invisibility, it felt surreal. "Take your time," Marcus said gently. "Focus on recovering first. The position will be waiting." After he left, Emma pulled out her laptop. "You need to see this," she said, her expression mixing satisfaction with disgust. "The Apex audit found more than just stolen credit." She turned the screen toward me. An internal memo from Richard Apex himself, sent to all staff. The forensic audit triggered by Josiah's termination had uncovered years of falsified expense reports. Client dinners that were actually date nights at restaurants I'd never been to. Research trips to Vegas and Miami that aligned suspiciously with his golf weekends. Conference fees for events he'd never attended. "He stole $47,000, Emma said quietly. "Over 3 years. I felt numb. While I'd been skipping lunches to save money, worried about our mortgage, he'd been embezzling funds for his personal pleasures. There's more." Emma scrolled to Josiah's LinkedIn profile. His post from yesterday trying to control the narrative was almost comedic in its desperation. "Excited to announce I'm exploring new opportunities after a mutual decision to part ways with Apex. Sometimes growth requires bold changes. Looking forward to bringing my award-winning vision to a forward-thinking organization." The comments below were brutal. Screenshots of the video circulated. Former colleagues called him out publicly. One comment from Rachel Morrison, who'd left 18 months ago, simply read, "Award-winning vision? You mean Naomi's vision that you stole?" We all knew. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I opened it, then immediately wished I hadn't. "We need to talk. This has gone too far. I'm still your husband. Please." "Block him," Emma said immediately. But another message came through before I could. "I know you're reading this. I'm freezing in our house because you changed the utility passwords. This is cruel, Naomi. After everything I gave you. Everything he gave me? I laughed, but it came out bitter. He means everything he took. Emma grabbed my phone and blocked the number. You need a lawyer. A good one. The lawyer Emma found, Patricia Winters, was a force of nature disguised as a grandmother. She arrived at the hospital the next day with a briefcase and absolutely no patience for what she called parasitic spouses. He's threatening to contest the divorce, she said, reviewing her notes. Claims emotional distress, damage to his career, even suggesting you premeditated this to steal his success. His success. I know. But we need to be prepared. Patricia pulled out a thick folder. Tell me everything. Every incident, every moment of control or manipulation. So I did. The therapy sessions I'd been attending secretly for 6 months, convinced I was losing my mind as Josiah gaslit me about my contributions. Dr. Lynette Shaw had documented everything. The emotional manipulation, the systematic erasure of my professional identity, what she called intimate partner psychological abuse. Patricia took notes, occasionally making sounds of disgust. What about witnesses to public incidents? Company holiday party last year, I said, remembering the humiliation. He told the entire table I was playing at marketing while doing my little projects at home. Everyone laughed uncomfortably. Who was there? I listed names. Patricia smiled like a shark scenting blood. Within 3 days, Josiah's position crumbled entirely. Faced with evidence of embezzlement, witness statements of public humiliation, documented psychological abuse, and the viral video of his meltdown, his lawyer advised immediate capitulation. The papers arrived while I was still in the hospital. Everything I asked for. The house, the savings accounts I'd frozen with Emma's help, the car, and most crucially, legal acknowledgement that all disputed creative work was mine. Josiah's signature looked shaky, defeated. He tried to negotiate for the golf clubs, Patricia told me with undisguised amusement. I told him he's lucky we're not pursuing criminal charges for the embezzlement. His final email came that night. Naomi, can we please talk like adults? This doesn't have to end so badly. We could work something out. I'm willing to forgive you for the ambush if you call off the lawyers. Forgive me. The audacity of it made Emma nearly throw my phone against the wall. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say to a man who thought my near-death experience was something requiring his forgiveness. 2 weeks later, I was released from the hospital. Marcus had sent movers to pack Josiah's things from the house. He'd been staying at a motel, his credit cards maxed out from lawyer fees. Walking into my home, actually mine now, felt like breathing again. The marketing industry is smaller than people think. Word traveled fast. 3 of Josiah's former clients reached out directly, having always wondered why the creative vision disappeared whenever he led meetings solo. Bradley Chon from Phoenix Digital actually said, "We knew something was off when Josiah couldn't answer basic questions about his strategies without you there." I accepted Marcus's offer with a signing bonus that covered my medical bills and left enough to remodel the home office. My office now, not a locked shrine to someone else's false success. The announcement of my new position went live on a Tuesday. Kellerman Industries welcomes Naomi Blackwood as strategic director. The response was immediate. Congratulations from colleagues who'd stayed silent for years. Interview requests from industry publications. 3 speaking invitations for marketing conferences. Josiah's announcement, posted the same day, got a different reception. Excited to join Startup Solutions as a junior consultant. Startup Solutions, a struggling company known for taking anyone with a pulse. The comments below were sparse, mostly from people who didn't know the full story. But it was 6 months later when fate delivered its finest irony. The National Marketing Awards, the industry's most prestigious ceremony. I was being honored for the Kellerman campaign. My campaign finally under my name. Emma accompanied me, wearing a dress that cost more than Josiah's monthly motel rent. The ballroom glittered with success stories and I was one of them. My name on the program. My achievement being celebrated. When they called me to the stage, the applause felt like vindication made sound. That's when I saw him. Josiah stood in the lobby, visible through the grand entrance doors. Cheap suit from a discount store, portfolio under his arm, that nervous energy of someone hoping for a break. He was there for an interview. Startup Solutions had a recruitment booth in the adjacent conference room, fishing for desperate talent. Our eyes met across the marble expanse. He looked different. Smaller, dimmer, like someone had turned down his brightness settings. The confident swagger had become a nervous twitch. The man who'd nearly let me die for his bonus was now begging for entry-level positions. For a moment, just a moment, he took a step toward me. His mouth opened as if to speak. I turned away, walking back to my table where my award waited, where my real life was celebrating my visible success. The applause from the award ceremony still echoed in my ears as I returned to my table, leaving Josiah frozen in the lobby like a ghost from another life. Emma squeezed my hand under the table, her smile proud and protective. The weight of the award, a crystal piece with my name etched clearly, felt like redemption made tangible. A year had passed since that morning I'd collapsed at Apex. A year of rebuilding not just my career but my entire understanding of what work could be. My office at Kellerman Industries occupied a corner of the 23rd floor, walls of glass offering views of the city I'd almost died in. But it was what hung on the interior wall that mattered most. The original Kellerman campaign, framed with a small plaque, created by Naomi Blackwood. Almost died for it. Lived to own it. Young strategists started seeking me out after the story went viral. They'd arrive at my office with familiar exhaustion in their eyes, clutching portfolios of work credited to others. Sarah, a junior designer from a competing firm, broke down crying when she showed me campaigns her director had claimed, the same pattern of 2 a.m. emails and dismissive responses I knew too well. Document everything, I told her, the same advice Gwen had given me, passed down like inherited wisdom. Build your case silently. Your moment will come. My team at Kellerman operated differently than any department I'd known. Monday meetings started with health check-ins before project updates. Everyone's name appeared on their work, from interns to senior staff. When Tom, one of my strategists, needed surgery for appendicitis, I told him to take whatever time he needed. Your life matters more than any deadline, I said, meaning every word. The culture shift rippled outward. Other departments began adopting our policies. Richard Apex himself reached out, asking for consultation on rebuilding their workplace culture post-Josiah. The industry that had once rewarded theft and exploitation was slowly, painfully, learning to value transparency. Emma had taken her own leap, leaving her corporate job to launch Visible Work, a consultancy that helped companies identify and eliminate toxic leadership. She used Josiah as case study X, his patterns of manipulation and credit theft becoming a teaching tool for HR departments and executives. You'd be amazed how many Josiahs there are, she told me over lunch 6 months into her venture. Different faces, same playbook. Steal credit, gaslight victims, claim partnership while practicing parasitism. We'd turned pain into purpose, but some wounds ran deeper than professional theft. Our parents, who'd spent years wondering why I always looked exhausted at family dinners while Josiah boasted about our success, finally understood the truth. Mom had cried when she learned about the surgery ultimatum, Dad's quiet rage more terrifying than any shout. We should have seen it, Mom said during one visit. The way you dimmed around him. We thought it was just marriage adjustment. Abuse doesn't always leave visible bruises, I reminded her, touching my abdomen where the surgical scar had faded to a thin silver line. They became fierce advocates, Mom joining a group for parents of abuse survivors, Dad volunteering with organizations promoting workplace reform. The ripples of truth spread wider than I'd imagined. 8 months after the divorce, an email arrived that made my blood run cold then hot with familiar anger. Not from Josiah. I'd blocked every possible avenue of contact, but from someone named Ashley. Hi Naomi, you don't know me but I'm was dating, Josiah Blackwood. I found some concerning things and searched his name online. The videos, the articles. I need to know. Is it all true? He says you orchestrated his downfall out of jealousy. But something feels wrong. Please respond. Ashley. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let Josiah weave whatever narrative he needed to survive. But then I remembered myself 3 years ago, believing his version of reality, slowly disappearing into his shadow. I responded with facts, not emotion. Attached the court documents acknowledging the creative work was mine. The therapy records documenting systematic psychological abuse. The medical reports showing how close I'd come to death. No editorializing, no anger, just truth. Ashley's response came within hours. Thank you. I'm leaving him today. He's been claiming my work ideas at the startup where we work. I thought I was being too sensitive. You saved me from becoming invisible too. The pattern continued even after losing everything. Josiah had learned nothing, still seeking victims to prop up his hollow existence. 2 weeks later, I heard he'd been terminated from the startup. Ashley had reported him with documentation she'd started after our exchange. He'd relocated to another state, but in the digital age, reputation follows like a shadow. A simple Google search of his name brought up the videos, the articles, the truth he couldn't escape. Lisa, the brave intern from Apex, reached out on the anniversary of that fateful morning. She was a senior strategist now, her talent finally visible. You changed everything, her message read. Not just for me but for everyone who was afraid to speak up. You showed us that truth eventually wins. I kept a folder of these messages, not for ego but for the dark moments when I wondered if the price had been too high. My health, my marriage, my sense of safety, all sacrificed on the altar of visibility. But then I'd remember the alternative. Dying silently while Josiah collected bonuses from my ghost-written life. Standing in my office one evening, city lights twinkling below like earthbound stars, I touched the faded scar on my abdomen. It had been Josiah's cruelty that nearly killed me, but in a strange way, it had also saved me. Without that ultimatum, that final insult of being asked to choose his career over my life, I might have remained invisible forever. The call to Marcus hadn't been about revenge, though justice had followed. It had been about survival, not just physical but spiritual. The death I'd faced wasn't just from internal bleeding but from the slow erosion of self that comes from living as someone else's shadow. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. Dinner tomorrow? Mom and Dad are coming. They want to celebrate your 1-year anniversary at Kellerman. 1 year visible. 1 year credited. 1 year of being fully, unapologetically myself. The real triumph wasn't in Josiah's fall. He'd engineered that himself through greed and cruelty. It wasn't even in my rise, though success tasted sweeter when earned under my own name. The real victory was simpler. I'd chosen to live, really live as myself rather than die as someone's convenient ghost. The city lights blurred slightly as tears came, not of sadness but of profound gratitude. I was alive. I was visible. And I was finally, completely free. If this story of workplace justice had you holding your breath, hit that like button right now. My favorite part was when Naomi made that call to Marcus Kellerman, knowing she was about to expose 3 years of stolen work. What was your favorite moment? Drop it in the comments below. Don't miss more powerful stories like this. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload.